who might you believe?
All right, let's talk about this Saberforge Cleric here from Chris Royal. He, I believe, powder coated it. I'm not sure if he also etched the shroud, but this came as a group of sabers from him for install for David at the Saber Museum. So I do appreciate David's repeat business. Because this is a repeat customer, I'm not going to go over everything here. A lot of these setups are the same. There are some new features on this. This does sport a Proffie V3. So why don't we hop down to the table? We'll talk about the internals, the components, what went on with the chassis, and then we'll hop back out. We'll go over some brief functions, show a couple blade styles, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, we're here to talk about this Saberforge Cleric that was powder coated and maybe even etched. I'm not quite sure who did the etching, by Chris Royal at Royal Custom Armory for David of the Saber Museum. This came as a group of 4 hilts from him, so there will be a series of these. But up top, right off the bat, we'll just talk about what's going on with it. So I did install this as a fully removable system with the chassis here. We'll go over that in a second. But there is a holder here for the switches, the rotary, and then what I did was in these slots was design a crystal chamber reveal. It's kind of hard to see here through these slots, but there are 2 quartz points, and we'll see that better when it's illuminated. One from the bottom pointing up and one from the top pointing down, and then some brass and PLA chassis pieces there in that window. There we go. You can sort of see it now. And then Chris did provide a blade plug. I had to do quite a bit of work on this blade plug because it was just shoved into the emitter. And so I had to do a bunch of sanding. And then because I'm sure he didn't know what would be involved with the install, I did cut it so that there would be just a small lip that would allow for some shine through on the side, as well as shine through on the top from this Shtok V2 neopixel or V3 neopixel. So yeah, and then everything will just now come out of the pommel here, which does match that blade plug. So we can see the Shtok Rotary PCB down in there with the pogo pins. And then on the chassis, we're sporting the new Proffie V3. There's the PCB side of the Shtok Rotary. We've got a 28mm KR bass speaker. It does fit an 18650, and we've got a bunch of just accent pixels here. So on the Proffie side, this row of 5 2020 neopixels on all of the presets will be a battery level indicator that goes from green to red. But on the sides, we have a Red LED Edison filament up top, and then a row of 15 2020 neopixels. And then on the battery side up top, we only show about 7 cutouts, but in the back there is a curve, same as this row of 2020s here. On the back, there's a row of 10 curved neopixels that will shine through that window. And I just kind of had to do that in order to allow for some of the wires that need to get up to the top here. So again, we do have the Proffie V3, so it did allow us to put quite a bit of variation both in these and in the KR 12mm pixel accent here. So this is your power, and then this is just a standard tactile aux. I thought having 2 neopixel rings would just be a lot, considering these do not have a data out. So what I had to do was run the crystal chamber and pixel switch in parallel. Then there's a hidden PCB inside that allowed me a data out to run the emitter as a subblade. So to light it up, we just make sure that our battery's in. Now, I did already have this in here. So we can see we've got positive and negative clearly indicated. Spring side's your negative. So we put our battery in. And then there's a kill switch here. So turn that on.
They were the only family I knew.
So
He slaughtered them.
because this does have a Sith emblem etched into the shrouds, I just carried that over onto the chassis design along with some other just embossed patterns to make it look kind of cool. But we can see we've got in our off state, those Edison filaments are blinking on this preset. You can see that row of neopixels light up there, up top. And then on the back side, we've got a fully charged battery. So in the off state, you can see it pulsing. In the on state, it will just be on. I did provide 2 chassis tactile buttons. So this side is your power, this side is your aux. So if we want to switch presets here. So you can see some of the animations have changed both in the Edison filament and in the accents there. But like I said, battery level indicator will be on every preset. So there is a battery level preset itself, which will show up in the blade, but all of the accents will go from green to red. Whereas this one, I just did a kind of a gradient from green to red. So what'll happen is the less this is charged, the more it'll get closer to that red. So to light it up, we can turn the power, or we do have gesture controls, twist on and twist off and thrust on, but we don't need them.
You think you could protect them from me?
So on this one, we get I don't know if you can tell on the Edison filaments, but it is flickering. And it should brighten up with clashes. You can see that in the accent pixels there and there. So. We can twist off. So if we want to go backwards in presets, we point the hilt down, of course. So we're in a chassis. As this is a repeat customer and David has some particular requests, I've accommodated all those requests. So there's a blade style, a preset for every Canon blade color, but there are some extra Sith related fonts on here. So there's quite a bit of red presets towards the end here, but we'll just
Battery level.
so this is our last preset. So we switched to green to red. The entire row of pixels there, and then when the chassis is in, it will be in the crystal, and the pixel switch will go from green to red because we have a full charge on this battery. It's green right now. And then similarly, this is the same blade style for when the presets are not this, and it's down here. So as this goes down, you'll have less battery. But yeah, so to move forward, just hit the aux switch here. Okay, so now we're on the first. This is the 8th brother, I think, from Harry Solo Fonts. So when we're ready, we'll stick PCB side up. Now this is a very tight fit because of the clear coating on this rub and buff finish. So when you go to push it in, just make sure you're not pushing on the speaker, and you just push on the side here. The pommel will do the rest. And then if we show the switch side, once we make connection there, you'll see the pixel switch light up. And there we go. And then we can see in the crystal chamber, see if we can show those quartz points. Yeah. And again, these will mirror what the switch is doing. So In the off state, it's doing this circular pattern. And to ignite, just hit that. Get an audio flicker. So that'll show up in the emitter. And all of these react to clashes, blaster blocks, lockups, etc. So to, like I said, to advance, we hit Aux. So we got a green blade here. These will pretty much indicate what the main blade is going to be. So what I did, just to note, the hilt came to me with this set screw for the chassis, and this was probably intended to be blade retention, but I used this because this is kind of a two-part chassis to marry the crystal chamber in place. These both hold the switch section and emitter section in place, and then I drilled this 832 set screw up top. So that is your blade retention. And so all of the retention screws are on the same side as the cover tech wheel. So just know that that's where your blade retention screw is. So turn it on. Okay. So that's that. I'll take the chassis back out just to show you how to do that. And now, because it is a tight fit, what you'll want to do is kind of like the chassis days of old, is you'll want to cup your hand and then hit your palm on your hand, and then it will come out just a bit there, and you'll need to pull it the rest of the way. So let me just kind of quickly go through some of the presets here so we can see all of the accents light up, and then I will put it in. And we'll go over some blade functions with the blade in. So we are on the third preset. This is a blue blade. This is one of the new default Proffie fonts. This is sporting OS 7.7. And because we do have the V3, like I said, we can get a ton of different variations in our animations. But for the most part, the crystal chamber and switch will indicate what's going on in the blade. Config is on the SD card if you decide to do any editing. It's just a press fit. You can lift it up if you need to, but you can get a 90-degree cable in here, and then tweezers if you need to pull the SD card. So turn it on real quick. So you can see what I've managed to do with the Edison filament is it is kind of sound reactive, but when you do blaster blocks, it goes to full brightness. So, and that'll just, I think there's like 3 variations of animations in those. There's not a whole lot you can do with single color. That's a really cool font. I did pick quite a bit of bassy fonts for this. So this is the grayscale coda that's now also included with the default Proffie fonts. And this is just a different blue. This is, you'll see this with the blade in. So we have the Edison filaments pulsing. And then we've got this guy doing its thing. And then if we turn it on, got a mixture of colors now. This is kind of probably showing up oranges on camera, but these are red filaments.
I am a Jedi.
This is the Village Bride from Kyberphonic. This is a yellow blade. And again, this is just a battery level indicator across all presets. I figured we've got basically every side of this has an accent, so we might as well use it for something informative. is our white blade, so it's a corn horn type of font. I do believe this does have color change direct, so it'll go from this silverish color to purple instead of changing colors. See that accent there? This will be a purple blade, but on the accents here, we've got red, orange, pink, all kinds of different colors here. This one is audio reactive as well, so this is kind of a meter strip for how loud the sound is. It's washed out on screen, but it goes from a white to a purple to kind of mimic what's going on in the and then again, this may not be showing up, but it is an audio flicker. And then when there's clashes or blasters, it lights up brighter, which might not be showing up that well on here. Okay. So here we got Sith Killer. This is going to be an orange blade, dark orange blade, but the accent colors on some of these other things just switch up. So, all right. Got different on and off colors for the side animations, but to start the track in the off state, we'll hold power for a second. If you're in the on state, you just need to make sure the blade is completely upright, but we'll just hold this for a second. And hold it again to turn it off.
Kenobi is all that matters now.
This one has Duel of Fates. Okay.
Anomaly.
This one is another whitish blade, but it has a kind of a weird, this is, I think, the preset that came from Grayscale. So it kind of has a smoky blade that goes from white to purple. It's a similar to the corn horn, but just different.
And who might you be?
And this is another one from Tales of Jedi. This is the Inquisitor. So this will be another. So now we've got like a mixture of just dark side fonts at the end to keep in line with the theme of this hilt. So. Cyberphonic as well from the Jedi Fallen Order game. Got another sound reactive. The colors are different and the orientation is different. But the louder it is, the more lights light up. You can see that going. So we've got actually two Riva fonts on here. One is from Harry Solo and one is from the Cyberphonic Obi-Wan Kenobi series. He did a group of the three different ones from Ben, Vader, and Riva. So I'm not sure which one this one is. But they're a little bit different in terms of all the accents and maybe even the actual blade itself, but I don't think so. They're all going to be red, but the blade styles for the animations here are going to be different. So you can see the Edison filaments blinking.
Third sister.
So. Okay, and we're back at the end. So that'll
Give me the holocron.
we're ready to turn it off. We can leave the battery in if we want. And again, when you go to take this out, if you go to put the chassis in, I would keep the battery in it so that there's a little bit of extra weight when you actually have to cup it to pull it out. But that's that. So we will put a blade in it. This does take a 1-inch diameter neopixel blade, and it is designed for a 36-inch length. So we'll demonstrate that here in a second. Okay, so we talked about the chassis, we talked about the V3, we talked about some of those things that were going on, crystal chamber here and the pixel switch. So let's go over a few blade styles. Now, I did include a preset for every cannon color, but because this is a very Sith themed hilt, I added a load of extra fonts for dark side related things. So at the end of the presets will be a bunch of just red blades, but they're all a little bit different. But yeah, so up top, we've got our power and aux. Now the power is obviously the pixel, and I did mention this down below, but because this KR pixel switch does not have a data out, that's a very tight design, I had to come up with a creative solution to get the crystal, to get the data to run from the switch to the emitter and to the blade. And the way I did that was ran these in parallel with a hidden PCB inside. So what you'll notice is that some of the animations, if it's going in like the circle, the 2 pixels are basically the end of that circle. So it'll look like blinking in the crystal chamber, which you can see right now, but it'll just be kind of a rotary animation. Now, there's something different for every font, so a lot of them may just be pulsing and then audio flicker on, but you'll see that up front. But it is pretty cool, and a lot of the crystal chamber elements, like the actual quartz points, you can see up close. So to light it up, we hit power, or we do have gesture on. So we have, like before, we have twist on, twist off, and then thrust on, and then those gesture controls, when used to turn on, will get us into battle mode, so we don't have to use either button to engage lockups. So let's just start in regular mode. I believe this is one of the Harry Solo fonts for 8th Brother. So we got red blade, kind of a light flicker. All right, so aux for blaster blocks. And then in a regular mode, we'll hold either button and clash to engage that lockup. Move it around until you let go. However, if we gesture on, like I said, we're in battle mode now, so a clash is going to get us into lockup until we pull away. Okay. So for the tracks, we can hit the the power button for a second in the off state, or if the Saber is upright in the on state, hold it for a second and release to turn on that track. I believe this is the Obi versus Annie. I think this is the one. And then we hold it to turn it off. Now again, if the Saber's on, we gotta be upright. And it's got a little bit of an intro, so we don't hear it right away. And then to turn it off. However, if we're in any other orientation, we're going to do force or a quote, depending on which font we're on. So we'll do a force effect. And I did a unstable blade to let you know that you've done the force. This one, sound effects are a little bit subtle, but they're there. So let's switch fonts. We'll hold aux. This is from the Tales of the Jedi Ahsoka Tano, so this is a green blade. Turn that on, and so we'll do that force effect again. So we'll hold power for a second. All right, we get a little bit on flicker, we get that sound. There is a thing where if you're pointing straight down, it will go through force. If there's quotes, it'll go force quote in sequential order. I actually didn't copy them in sequential order, so there'll be random quotes because there's like 2 or 3 episodes, and Kyberphonic included all of them. So if we're down...
Thanks for coming, Master.
So now we got a quote because we just had a force effect sound. So that's that. And again, to do the track, this one's got our Star Wars main theme. We just turn that off. So
Liquid static.
Liquid static. This is going to be one of the 2 blues. There's a deep blue and a light blue. This one has a pre-on. then this one's kind of a blue smoke blade. This is the blade style that came with the font from, I think this is a Brian Connor font. It's a little bit of an emitter flare here, lighter color, and then very subtle. I think it's cool. Very, very cool font. Coda is going to be a deep sky blue, so this one's going to have a lot more variation in the colors. It also, so this one's more of a cyan blade, but I mean, it's got some. Okay.
I am a Jedi.
And this is the Village Bride, so this will be our yellow blade. This just comes from the FET 263 library, so this should fairly well match the show, but it's kind of an unstable flicker, light orange. You're not seeing that on, I'm sorry, yellow. You're not seeing that on screen as well. This one does also have quotes, so if you wanted to go in sequence, you just hold it straight down. Got a force effect, and then
Finished exploring the planet yet?
and so it'll swap, like I said, force quote, force quote, force quote. Anyway. Okay, so this is our speeder bike font. I mentioned it down below, but this does do the color change direct. So we'll hold aux tap power, and then we'll go to a purple, and it does that as well on the accents here as well. The accents on the chassis will all be the same, but the blade and the crystal will all react to white versus purple. But so it started with a power flash, so not sure how well that shows up on camera. Here is our dark orange blade, and like I said, this is a kind of a new font, and may not show up that well on camera. Okay. If we did want to do color change on this one, though, we'll go into the color wheel. So again, hold aux tap power. Rotate. Kind of have a weird color change sound. To accept, we'll hold power. To revert, we'll hold aux, and I'm going to hold aux because I've programmed these for your requests, Jamie.
Revert.
So you'll hear revert. If we want to do volume, you'll do that power then aux in off state.
Enter volume menu.
So I held power first and then hit aux. And I did set these all to be one click back from 100%. 100%'s 2000 on here. With this 28 millimeter bass speaker, it's plenty loud. So, but
Maximum volume.
rotate to the right to turn the volume up, turn left to turn it down, and then you'll hear those are about 10% increments.
Maximum volume.
So to come back off one, and then
Volume menu end.
so there. Now I've saved it at about roughly 90%. We can also do the inverse in the off state, hold aux tap power to get a spoken percentage of our battery. So if we weren't on our battery preset.
Battery level 80%.
There you go.
Anomaly.
And this is another whitish blade. It's going to be a little bit different than the corn horn one. This one actually has kind of a purplish emitter and a silver blade, but it looks really cool. Okay. And I believe that is the blade style that comes from Grayscale.
And who might you be?
And then now here we're at the end of the presets, and these are all going to be basically red blades with a little bit variation on the chassis designs. And then maybe I think I have 2 or 3 different blade styles of red. So one's going to be more erratic, one's going to be just kind of subtle flicker, and then I can't remember what the third one is. This one's a little bit more stable, but just a slight flicker. Okay.
Second sister.
Second Sister is pretty much the one that comes from the FET263 library, so this should match the game for the most part. So this one's way more unstable. There might even be a swing thing going on here. And then here we go with Reva. So this one, okay, this one's the same as Second Sister.
Reva!
But this one's going to be different.
You think you could protect them from me? Nothing can save you.
And so there we go. I'll have a printout for you, David, with all of the things I don't cover in this. And if you have any questions, you can just email me. But again, all of the requests for blade colors and extra tracks are on here. I can give you a list of those in the email if you prefer. Thanks for checking it out, and see you on the next one.